Hello and welcome. I've been a busy little bee this week, so lots of little snippets put together to make the video today. I've been busy in the polytunnel, catching up with little jobs that are long overdue. So finally, after 10 years of owning my polytunnel, I have put a netting screen on the doors at the far end. So when I'm not here in the hot summer days, I can have the doors open at both ends of the tunnel. I do have netting side screens and I can roll up the plastic to let the air through, and I've also got netting on the entrance door. But this end door has been desperately in need of it, as I said, for more than 10 years. It's always been in the plan and it never happened. So finally, it's done. I've used plastic zip ties to secure the net to a metal rail above the doors. I've overlapped my two sheets of netting so they cross each other in the middle. And I'll bring you in closer to see. I've added just a piece of baling string to the bottom that will clip onto a metal bolt on either side to secure it down from things getting in underneath. Let's go and take a closer look. The netting loops over these polytunnel bolts. It's part of the main structure. And I've got little metal clips that I can hook onto those handy bolts just to secure the bottom down and stop that blowing around. But I can open up the doors when I want to go in and out. And more of the main structure bolts. There are little eyelet holes woven into the edging of this netting screen, and they fit just nicely over that bolt, so I can clip the doors open when I want to trot in and out with my wheelbarrow. This dill seems particularly happy here in the polytunnel. When it was in a little pot at home, no matter how much water I gave it, it was always lying sideways and looking droopy and floppy. But since I've put it in the ground here, a couple of days it's propped itself up and it's looking splendid. It's possibly been in here for about a week now. It's really loving it. I've mulched up these potatoes with an extra thick layer of grass, so hopefully I'll get an even bigger crop. They're actually getting nice and tall. I could probably add another 6 inches on top of this. In fact, I might do that this afternoon. That's a jolly good idea. Last autumn, I installed this black shade cover over the top section of my polytunnel where I keep my fish pond. A huge swimming pool that I keep fish in, so it's the fish pond. But I've found that every few weeks or so, when I come to the tunnel, the black fabric is hanging in wavy drifts between each of the support rails rather than nice and taut and straight, which is not a massive problem, just a bit irritating. And usually the fabric at this very end will have pulled out of that end hoop and is just hanging down like a flappy curtain. So along with fixing in my netting screen door, I've used plastic zip ties and secured this end to the metal hoop, along with the very far end I've also secured with plastic zip ties. There's nothing in the middle, it's just both ends are pulled nice and taut, so hopefully nothing will be moving now. It's really good. I'm loving the shade. Not only is it nice to partly shade the pond, it's given me and Miss Pussycat here somewhere nice and shady to sit when we're in the tunnel watching the plants grow. I don't have an empty shed or workspace at the moment, but what I do have is this old greenhouse that hasn't been used since I got my polytunnel many years ago. It's just left empty and vacant. Dried grass on the floor and ivy growing through it. So it's had a bit of DIY. There was one broken pane of glass. I've replaced that temporarily with a sheet of hardboard wrapped in polytunnel plastic and clipped in just as you would a normal greenhouse pane of glass. So that's made me watertight in here. So today I'm only planting 2 extra plants. I have this random bean amongst all my seed collections. I don't know what sort of bean it is or why it's all on its own, but I'll get that planted into the ground. And this little pot with 2 pepper plants in it. Now I have lots of pepper plants growing very nicely, probably about a dozen pots, and a lot of them have got 2 seedlings come up. I'll stick a photo next. So here's my tray of little peppers, all looking splendid, still in the house. So they're all doing splendidly and could all do with planting into the tunnel. But with these beautiful sunny days, we're still getting cold, frosty nights. And I'm a little nervous that these peppers are not going to like it, even here in the polytunnel. So I'm only prepared to risk 1 plant, well, 2 plants, 1 pot. So I'm going to plant that in today and keep an eye on it and see how it gets on over the next week. Hopefully by then the nights might have warmed up a little, but I'll know how well this is then coping with these polytunnel temperatures, fluctuating from sweltering hot during the day and cold at night. It's not actually freezing in here, but the temperatures do drop. So that'll be my planting for today. Not much. And then I'm off to cut grass and create lots more lovely mulch. Yay! Cutting grass always used to be such a drain and a chore. Since I've started using a Ruth Stout method of gardening, cutting grass has been wonderful. I am so eager to collect all those grass cuttings and use them to benefit my growing plants. So no longer is cutting the grass a pain and a chore. It's a thrill and I can't wait to get it done. My sunflower seeds have started to germinate, all but 1 row of 4. Nothing's labelled, so I don't know which set of seeds it is that's not popping up. And only just starting to see the beginnings of the winter squash. As I suspected it would, it's been dry weather ever since I planted my outdoor potatoes. So this week I've given them a good drenching and soaking with water and added a first top dressing of this lovely grassy mulch to keep that moisture in. They are just starting to sprout. I had one here a minute ago, there it is. I don't know if you're close enough for the camera to pick it up. Probably not. I'll bring you in and get a photo. Another garden task completed. Yay! So here I am in my favourite place, lying around in the garden with my plants. I've brought you over here to show you this stump of an apple tree. I became aware last summer that this 6-7-year-old apple tree was actually very sick. I think it was canker, but I'm not dead certain. Certainly its bark was splitting and cracking, oozing and dripping in some places. I decided I didn't have time to be faffing around with a sick tree. So in the autumn, I cut it off to this 18-inch stump in the hope that perhaps it might regenerate some new growth from the lower levels. As I was dragging remains of its top up to the bonfire, a thought occurred to me that some of its new season growth was still in very good, healthy looking condition. So I decided to take a couple chunks of it and see if I could make a graft. So I grafted these 2 sticks onto what remains of the apple tree trunk. I've put a wound sealing gooey gel on the end of the original cut, and I've wrapped my graft in grafting tape, which is really, it's like a strip of cling film, to be honest. It maybe survives better in the outdoor UV conditions than cling film might do, I'm not sure. And there I've left it, pretty much forgotten. I was delighted the other day to suddenly notice this top graft of wood actually has little shoots of green growth appearing. I'm not sure about the bottom one. I've taken another look at that. And I think I can just see the beginnings of growth on this second lower one as well. It's not looking so strong yet, but perhaps it's just a week behind. I'll bring you in for a real close-up.
Here you can see the 2 grafted twigs onto the original stump of a tree. And this is a real close-up look at that grafted joint. And here's the best picture of all, 3 nice fat green budding shoots.
And I'm really excited, so it'll be interesting to see how it gets on. At some point soon, I need to get around to planting this gorgeous azalea. A lovely gift from my mum. But not today. But just in case all its flowers are gone by the time I get round to planting it, I thought we'd show you how gorgeous it is. Let's hope I can manage to successfully keep it alive. It's certainly looking stunning right now. Hello again. I finally found some time to get this beautiful azalea planted. Now, as you can see, the area I'm planning to plant it is not beautiful tilled garden soil. It is rough, wild grassland. But with some careful TLC, this azalea is going to do just beautifully. And the more plants I put into this wild area, the less and less wild it will become, and the more planted it will be. It all just takes time. Now, azaleas are acid-loving plants, so in its planting hole today, I'm going to add some peat moss, and I've also mixed this with some blood fish and bone, which is just a general all-purpose fertiliser, to give it the best start I can. Oh, and of course, not forgetting a final top dressing of grassy mulch to suppress all the weeds and keep in the moisture. So let's get digging. So I'm going to take these grassy clumps that I'm digging out and flip them upside down, and that way all those grass and weeds can't grow because they're the wrong way up. Oh my, you blew over in a wind. So now I've lifted the turf off the top of this grassy, weedy area and I'm into proper soil. So I've gone and got myself a spare compost bin lid, but you could use a big sheet of plastic or anything you've got, really, a piece of wood or anything similar that you have. So as I dig this soil out, I can put it into there and it won't all disappear into the grass around us. Having dug a nice big hole, very much bigger than the pot this azalea's in, I'm now going to loosen up the soil in the bottom of this hole, just to make life easy so this young plant can get its roots out into the ground. Here's my watering can, up there. Now, as I do with absolutely everything I plant, the next task is to fill this hole with water. I'll repeat it again and again because it is so important. Whether you're planting a tiny young seed start or an enormous great big tree, dig the hole and fill it with water. And wait for that water to soak away. Then you're ready to plant your plant. Whether it's big or small, the principle and technique is exactly the same.
So mixing in my blood fish and bone along with my peat moss, I'm then going to put some of this mixture into my hole. Add back some soil, breaking up the clumps as we go. Make it nice and loose and fluffy.
Stir that in a bit, mix it together. So now I have a much better planting site than I started with. We can dig a little hole to put this azalea into. So if you're working in beautifully soft prepared garden beds, you won't need to do all that preparation. So now we'll take our azalea, put our hand over the surface of the pot, just enough to support the plant and stop all the compost falling out. Tip it up, give it a pat and shake her out. Ready for this planting hole. Well, good luck my dear. In you go, and backfill with compost. And just gently press her in. And not forgetting that final drink of water. Trying hard on this sunny day not to get its leaves wet. So because I'm working in such a rough starting environment, I've got myself some pieces of cardboard to also help suppress the surrounding weeds and grass. Now I know the centre soil that the azalea is in is fine because we've just prepared that. I just want to suppress a bigger circle of weeds around it and kill them off as the next year goes on by blocking out the light. Then on goes our lovely coating of grassy mulch that will help pin down the cardboard and make it look pretty too. I'm going to tuck this in under the plant so all that lovely moist soil we've just created is kept moist and weed free. There we have it, azalea planted. Now every time I pass this area with a grass cutter, I'll drop off another load of mulch and keep topping up the surface and expanding the area around her. And gradually over the years, we will kill off and suppress all this wild meadow grass and slowly add more and more beautiful plants and flowers. Not that the grassy meadow isn't beautiful too. It attracts all sorts of wildlife and insects. These two young pepper seedlings that I planted out a few days ago seem to have been coping very nicely with our cooler evenings. I was a little nervous they might not like it, but they're doing brilliantly. So I've decided today I'm going to plant the rest of my peppers out because they're all desperate to be in the ground and have a bit more space. I've also been planting my melons today. I thought if the peppers can survive the temperatures, the melons are going to be just fine as well. So here's a melon freshly planted. Now draw us back, and I've actually put 4 young melon plants in this bed. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now some of the melons I've planted today, I'll take you over and show you. Now this melon seedling is a much younger plant, but it was grown, along with its 4 friends here, from seeds collected out of a supermarket honeydew melon. So I'll be very interested to see how it gets on. Let's see if the fish will come up to see us today. I'm sure they will, especially when I start putting food in. Who's going to look pretty for us today?
managed to capture this photo of one of the tiny baby fish. I'm very pleased to see it obviously has some food in its tummy.
Scanning around the pond a bit, we have this red-leafed water lily coming up very nicely. Usually has beautiful pink flowers on it, so that's something to look forward to later in the summer. Oh, nice. Exciting! Just found one of the first pea pods off of my peas. That's it, the harvest begins. I could leave it on and let it fatten up and eat the peas inside, but I can't resist this very first one. I'm going to eat it as it is, flat, fresh and raw, straight off the plant. Lovely. I think that's been enough for this week. We've had a busy time. So I'll say goodbye and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
If you've enjoyed today's video, don't forget to click that like button and let me know. Click subscribe and YouTube will make sure you see my next video. So bye for now and we'll see you next time. And don't forget, whatever you're doing, have fun doing it.